Hey everyone, what's going on? Rob from Captain Rob Games here, and today we are going to be hopping into a spicy debate that is happening between Scottzdarva, otherwise known as Scott and Otzdarva. Now, Scott Jund recently put out a video that said Iron Will is basically, in his opinion, definitively the best non-exhaustion perk in the game. Otzdarva came out and said that he disagrees with that. He actually has Iron Will being ranked 6. Now, to give you some of their just sort of summary arguments, Scott says that Iron Will fundamentally changes the way that you have to chase. It ruins a lot of your mind games. Survivors can just exit loops. It causes a lot of problems. Survivors can hide in front of you. Iron Will has a lot of advantages. Now, Otzdarva argued on the flip side that, ignoring, of course, the exhaustion perks, that Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, and Unbreakable are actually the best perks in the game because you get insane value from them even if you don't run them. Solely by them existing in the meta, killers have to play in different ways. You're nervous about slugging because you know Unbreakable is a possibility. You're nervous about picking someone up after they've been unhooked because they could Decisive Strike you. You're nervous about hitting someone who is hook farmed in front of you because they could have borrowed time. So that's fundamentally Otzdarva's argument. So I'm going to tell you now who I agree with. Drum roll, please. I agree with them both. Now, you might think initially like, what? That's such a cop-out answer. But it's actually not. If you listen to the debate and the arguments, if you actually go back and watch their videos, you'll notice that fundamentally, they're not actually disagreeing. They're not actually arguing. In fact, they're debating over two entirely separate topics without realizing it. And there's an old joke that two philosophers will argue to the end of time and never make it anywhere if they don't actually stop to define their terms first. And I think that's the situation we've kind of found ourselves in here. Scott is arguing fundamentally from, if I put this perk on, what do I get? And in that case, yes, Iron Will is fundamentally probably the best perk to equip in the game. It gives you an advantage when you put it on that you would otherwise not have. Otzdarva says, well, Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, and Unbreakable are the best because of the value you get even when you don't have them equipped. Now, yes, you could say those three perks are the best perks in the game, but the question is, what are we arguing? Are we arguing what are the best perks by their very nature of existence, or are we arguing what are the best perks to actually equip on your survivor? Depending on which argument you're actually asking for, that determines whether Otz is right or whether Scott is right. If you're talking about which perks are the strongest just by their very nature of existing and affecting gameplay, yes, I would agree with Otzdarva. It's Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, Unbreakable. Are you arguing, okay, well, what is the best perk to actually equip? I think it's Iron Will, personally. So, I don't know, I feel like this entire debate was just really silly. Because they're arguing, but they never actually stop for a moment to define the boundaries of what does best mean. Best in how it changes the game. Best in you want to equip this, it'll have the most impact specifically in that match. Those are two different answers. And I will say that there was another thing that I caught. I don't disagree with Otzdarva on a lot, but I did actually kind of want to disagree with a small part of this, because when he argues what are the best perks, and this fundamentally goes back to the argument I just made, if you play Iron Will, you get the benefit of running Iron Will, you get the benefit of Unbreakable, Decisive Strike, and Borrowed Time existing in the meta. So even if you don't run those perks and you run Iron Will still gets all the benefit of those perks just by their very existence. If you run Borrowed Time, for example, you are not getting the benefits of Iron Will. The moment you injure someone and you hear their sounds, there's no value gained by Iron Will. So I think it's important to note that Iron Will benefits from Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, and Unbreakable existing in the meta, but Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, and Unbreakable do not benefit from Iron Will existing in the meta. So on that kind of flip side, it's like, well, if you don't run those perks and their very existence makes it better, that's kind of an argument that you don't even have to run those perks. Because those perks are essentially useless if, again, in theory, I know it doesn't play out this way, killers always respect them, they're useless. Their power is in their existence. Iron Will's power is in its application. So this entire argument is kind of silly to me. I think that when you look at it, you realize that they're just arguing two different things. Are perks powerful because you put them on and they give you an effect, or are perks powerful because they shape a meta in a way that makes killers less effective? So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I think this entire argument is just kind of fruitless because they never actually took the time to define their terms. What does it mean to be the best perk? So I hope this kind of clarifies and gives you a different point of view. I surprisingly do not see a lot of people pointing this out in the comments. I think that fundamentally they're just arguing different things. They don't realize it. And I think that if this is brought up to them, they'll both be like, okay, yeah, we completely agree. In your situation, you're right. In my situation, I'm right. So that's what I think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like content like this and me analyzing other YouTubers' content and their opinions and whatnot, let me know in the comment section. As usual, hit like, hit subscribe, help me out in the algorithm. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.